Tonight,
we had no choice but to go forward.
House Democrats move ahead with their impeachment inquiry, now going after White House documents with a congressional subpoena. Plus, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo pursues a top priority for the Trump administration: religious freedom around the world. And the rise of anti-Semitism in Europe and what it could mean for Jews here in America. These stories and more tonight on Faith Nation. New developments tonight and how the whistleblower complaint came to be. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm John Jessup.
And I'm Jenna Browder. The bombshell report out today appears that it was a coordinated effort. This as Democrats demand that White House turn over more records about the president's phone call with Ukraine.
CBN News Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson has more on what the president is calling a coup. Abigail?
Well, President Trump unleashed a torrent from the Oval Office today, lashing out at the two House Democrats leading an impeachment inquiry he's calling nonsense.
He's a shifty, dishonest guy.
Calling House Intelligence Chair Adam Schiff a lowlife, the president says Schiff's parody last week of the phone call with the leader of Ukraine should be a crime.
He should resign from office in disgrace, and frankly, they should look at him for treason.
At the heart of the matter, a CIA officer's whistleblower complaint. The president pressed for a corruption investigation into Democratic rival Joe Biden.
He either got it totally wrong, made it up, or the person giving the information to the whistleblower was dishonest. And this country has to find out who that person was, because that person's a spy.
The president maintains the rough transcript of that call is an exoneration.
Here's where I fooled them. They never thought I'd release the conversation. They never thought in a million years that I'd release the conversation.
In Italy, the Secretary of State is admitting to taking part in the Ukraine phone call.
As for was I on the phone call, I was on the phone call.
For Schiff, the president offered an assessment of the intel chair compared to Secretary Pompeo.
He couldn't carry his blank strap.
For the Speaker of the House, a teardown of Nancy Pelosi's San Francisco district.
There's tents, there's people that are dying in squalor.
Democrats in the House are accusing the White House of a flagrant disregard for previous information requests and claim they have no choice but to exercise subpoena power.
We're not fooling around here.
Chairman Schiff is accusing the White House of stonewalling Congress and says any attempt to prevent witnesses coming forward could help prove allegations.
Any action like that that forces us to litigate or have to consider litigation will be considered further evidence of obstruction of justice.
The Heritage Foundation's Thomas Jipping says the congressional subpoenas set up a battle between the White House and Congress.
There are matters that involve internal executive branch matters and how the executive branch operates that frankly might be beyond the reach of the legislative branch.
Now, as to the president's phone call with the president of Ukraine, Jipping says there's no guarantee that if the House does impeach the president, it will have anything to do with that conversation, adding that the more spaghetti you throw at the wall, you never know what's going to stick. John, Jenna?
All right, thanks, Abigail. Here now for more, Rick Klein, ABC News' political director, and CBN chief political analyst David Brody. Rick, let's start with you. The New York Times is out with a report saying that the whistleblower went straight to Congressman Adam Schiff's office before filing the complaint with the Inspector General. President Trump responding, calling this a scam. How does this change things?
Well, I think the details are important here, and it doesn't appear that Congressman Schiff knew the details. He knew that there was someone that was seeking whistleblower protection, and his office advised. I think what this gets to, though, is the heart of what the allegation is. I don't think it really matters how it comes into the process. I know the White House, the RNC, a lot of focus among Republicans on how the whistleblower's complaint came to be, who knew about it in advance. I think, though, that ends up being a bit of a distraction from the substance of the president's actions here and the fallout from that. So everything else, I think, kind of fades away in the bigger context.
David, what do you think? Do you agree with Rick? The president is calling this a coup. Does this play into that narrative?
Well, his supporters, the president's supporters, will definitely say this is part of a coup. Look, they're going to say a secondhand whistleblower complaint. They're going to say that Democrats called, which they did, called for an impeachment inquiry before they even saw the call transcript. Now this comes out. And part of what's interesting here with the Schiff situation, and that the fact that the whistleblower went to a House aide, according to the article in about the 9th or 10th paragraph, it says the aide actually told Schiff parts of what the whistleblower was saying. So Schiff knows something. We don't know what he knows exactly. So I think that's an interesting point. But the other point here is, then what? I mean, you can't imagine that Adam Schiff and the House aide all of a sudden went back to their desk jobs and decided to watch reruns of Judge Judy. You know, in other words, they knew something at that point, and what did they do about it afterwards in terms of lawyer coordination, a lot of other coordination? Look, I'm not trying to get into conspiracy stuff, but now that we have this New York Times article, it does raise these questions.
So how does this change the optics for Trump and the White House and the RNC? You heard Trump today, who's a king of branding, call it a coup. He said it was a scam. He calls this a war. How does this change things for them?
Well, we're going to find out in public opinion polls. It's now going to be a matter of, you know, what the Democrats and some other folks, obviously, on that side of the ledger versus what Donald Trump and his cohorts, if you will, on that side. So now it's a question of public opinion, and we'll watch to see some of the polls. And we've seen some polling already.
Well, speaking of those polls, a new polling shows that more Americans actually support the impeachment inquiry than don't. Rick, what do you make of this?
It tells me that people are taking it seriously. And I don't know that people understand impeachment, removal from office. It's a very complicated and convoluted process. But I think people are dialed in on this story. And I think the Democrats, they were very early on the impeachment train as the story developed. We're only now 8 or 9 days into that initial call for an impeachment inquiry. And I do think people are paying attention. And it's one indication of why the Democrats, I think, jumped at this as an issue. People want to know the details. And yes, there's a base of Trump supporters that will believe the president did no wrong. He'll talk about the supposed transcript as if it's exoneration. The fact is there's a lot there, and I think a lot that still has to get explained.
And it's interesting because ABC News actually did a poll, and I thought this was interesting because it came across that 67% of Americans take this serious, what's going on or seriously. But if you also look at ABC's poll, I got it right here. If you add off the other numbers, 57% of Americans don't take it very serious if you're going to talk about the very serious versus the serious. The point is, there's a lot of nuance in between these numbers, and we're not quite sure exactly where this is all going to shake out.
Rick, where does the investigation go from here?
I think we're hearing more about the expedited timeline, and I think the challenge for Democrats is going to be to keep focused on this because there's a lot of distractions. There's all these things. You want to go down the Rudy Giuliani, the Rick Perry lane, Pompeo, and the fights with the State Department. I've talked to a couple of Democrats who've said we have to get this done by the end of the year. And one House Democrat was saying that's the expectation is that there's a vote maybe by Thanksgiving, certainly by Christmas, and then bring it over to the Senate. I think they need to stay narrow, push it forward, and hope that they educate the public. Otherwise, they're going to be seen as going too far.
Do you think this is... Go ahead, Jenna. I insist.
Yeah. So, David, you have a good pulse for people who are out in middle America, President Trump's base. How do you think this is playing with them?
It won't move the needle at all with them. The question is, what about independents? And honestly, what about the overall arc of all of this? In other words, sometimes when the train leaves the station, the train leaves the station. And it's not, and I'm talking about independents and folks that are against Trump. And if you put those two blocks together, the president has some problems. So, you know, you can't rely just on your base. The base will be fine. They're not going anywhere. Now, having said that, the base could indeed be galvanized by this and maybe uptick a little bit. But look, the Democrats are on a road to impeachment. I don't think there's any question about it.
How much time do they have to play with before the election? Because meanwhile, there is a campaign going on.
So the baseball playoffs started last night. We have to go through an entire other baseball season and the playoffs and another World Series before we get to the election. There's a lot of time. There's a lot of time to work through all these things. I think if this is done by January, February, then the Democrats can move on, have the rest of their primary campaign, and have a general election about bigger things.
They do have to be careful that it's not done in secret, though. That is important. You know, a lot of this stuff, the whistleblower and other things, will be done behind closed doors. You know, if it's looked rushed and it's looked in secret, that could be a potential political PR problem for the Democrats.
All right, David and Rick, thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, to election 2020, Senator Bernie Sanders is recovering tonight after undergoing a heart procedure for a blocked artery. His campaign says he's doing well, But the 78-year-old has canceled all events and appearances for now. Many of his fellow Democratic candidates are taking to Twitter to wish the senator a speedy recovery.
And outside the Beltway, 2020 Democratic presidential candidates are leaning into gun control. And as CBN's Amber Strong reports, they're rolling out their proposals as the issue apparently has stalled on Capitol Hill.
As political attention has shifted toward impeachment, Democratic candidates are trying to make gun control a priority and fighting to make their policies stand out.
Angela Gomez, 20.
As part of the country marks a tragic anniversary and other cities feel the pain of a series of August shootings, presidential candidates are showcasing their plans to address gun violence and what makes them different from opponents.
This was Jamie's favorite place on earth.
Vice President Joe Biden is enlisting the help of Fred Gutenberg, whose daughter died in the Parkland High School shooting. Biden's 11-page plan would reinstate the assault weapons ban, while also proposing a voluntary buyback and a biometric system that would prevent unauthorized use of a weapon.
Anybody, as far as I know, can have a slingshot. And nobody can have a nuclear weapon.
Mayor Pete Buttigieg also supports a voluntary buyback and plans to dedicate $1 billion to combat violent extremism, including white nationalism. He also hopes to limit the spread of hateful ideology online. Senator Elizabeth Warren's desire to end the congressional filibuster is part of her laser focus on the NRA. She also wants to expand minimum age requirements to purchase guns to 18.
Yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47.
That statement from Beto O'Rourke following 2 major shootings in his home state of Texas lit a match to the already explosive gun debate. It also marked an attempt to revamp his campaign by digging into gun control. O'Rourke's calling for a ban on assault weapons, silencers, and high-capacity magazines. He also wants to limit gun purchases to 1 per month. That push, however, hasn't resonated in the polls. According to the latest from Real Clear Politics, O'Rourke stands at about 2%, trailing 6 of his fellow candidates. Amber Strong, CBN News, Washington.
All right, thank you, Amber. Well, Liz Harrington is a national spokesperson for the Republican National Committee, and she joins us now. Liz, good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So, you know, new polling suggests that impeachment and this inquiry, support for it is growing among the American public. Is the RNC concerned about this?
No, not at all. And actually, if you look at some of these new polls, it shows that support has grown among Democrats, but not among the entire electorate. And many people, most Americans, see that this is just another attempt to damage President Trump politically. You saw that in the CBS poll that was reported on in The Hill, which actually shows people are smart. They see that the media and the Democrats have been working to undermine this president since day one. Now we see Adam Schiff's story completely falling apart in the pages of the New York Times. And Americans see this for what it is. It's another attempt to overturn the results of the 2016 election. And that's why they're not buying it.
Yeah, Liz, does this take away, though, from some of the concerns that Democrats and others have about the issue at hand and the potential presidential abuse of power?
Absolutely not. Everyone can read the transcript from themselves. And what we were told was a smear and a lie by Democrats in the media that there was a quid pro quo, that there was somehow pressure applied, this favor. When you actually release the transcript and read it for yourselves, you see nothing of the kind. Joe Biden's a passing mention. And in fact, the favor that President Trump asked was getting to the bottom of the corruption that happened involving Ukraine, the DNC, the Obama administration in the 2016 election. It had nothing to do with 2020. People can read this for themselves. President Trump has called their bluff. He has nothing to hide. I would like to know more about this story with Adam Schiff, just how closely he colluded with this so-called whistleblower, who we now learned came to the committee, and the committee gave them a Democrat attorney who donated to Joe Biden to craft this complaint.
Speaking of which, on Twitter, after the revelation from the New York Times report, you called this an orchestrated con job and compared it to the same playbook as Christine Blasey Ford. What did you mean by that?
It's a very similar playbook that we've seen play out since even before President Trump was inaugurated, which was you take a smear, unverified allegations. At first, it was the dossier based on Christopher Steele, which turned out to be disinformation from Russian sources. In the Blasey Ford case, it was the same thing with Democrats, getting access to an unverified claim, keeping it secret, not sharing it with Republicans in Congress. Then somehow it gets leaked to the press, and then you have the media runs wild with allegations that turn out to be false. And in this case, now we're finding out exactly that's what happened. This was unverified gossip. This so-called whistleblower had no firsthand information of the phone call. Goes to Adam Schiff's committee. They keep it secret. Adam Schiff is tweeting about the allegations, but doesn't go public and says that we never spoke to the whistleblower.
Liz, I have half a minute left. We really want to ask you about the campaign. There's still a crowded field of Democratic challengers. Who is the RNC focusing on?
We're focusing on all of them, actually. We're quite happy to take on any of these Democrats, and we see them pushing forward a very radical, extreme agenda, whether it's Joe Biden saying we should eliminate fossil fuels, whether it's Elizabeth Warren railing against capitalism and really talking about restructuring our entire U.S. economy. They're pushing very radical, dangerous ideas that will absolutely destroy our way of life in this country, and it's an attack on the American dream. And so I think you look at their advocating for this Green New Deal, which is a complete attack on the American dream, whether what we drive, what we eat, where we live. It is absolutely so extreme. So we're not worried about any of them. We're happy to take the record of accomplishment of President Trump against them all.
Liz Harrington, thank you so much for taking time to be with us today.
Thank you for having
me.
Thanks,
Liz. Well, coming up, how the U.S. is trying to lead the fight for religious freedom around the world.
Prophecy thousands of years old.
We were called to be a light to the world.
Being fulfilled today. Discover how. Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life. Just call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religious he have, which color he is. This is what I'm doing.
See how the people of Israel are fulfilling prophecy.
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
By sharing their knowledge.
In Africa, in Asia, in South America, in East Europe.
And their love.
This is how we work. This is us.
Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
Get Protect Your Sleep and discover how to improve the quality of your life. A free DVD or booklet from the Christian Broadcasting Network.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
5 leading experts help remove the obstacles between you and restorative sleep.
When you don't get a restful night's sleep, you wake up with an accumulation of stress.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free DVD or booklet today.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
You'll discover how food affects your sleep, how to put insomnia to rest, explore effective remedies for sleep apnea, and much more in Protect Your Sleep. Wake up to your best life and get Protect Your Sleep today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free DVD or booklet.
With impeachment fever taking over D.C., Secretary of State Mike Pompeo focused on faith when he was at the Vatican.
And he called on all nations to join the Trump administration to protect religious freedom. White House correspondent Ben Kennedy reports.
It's estimated 11 Christians die each day for their faith. Pompeo specifically pointed at China, Cuba, Iran, and Syria as some of the key countries for repressing religious freedom.
More than 80% of mankind lives in places where religious freedom is threatened or entirely denied.
Pompeo used this faith-based gathering to lay out alarming statistics, including reports that 1 in 9 Christians worldwide experience high levels of persecution. That's up 14% from last year. He then urged world leaders to promote global religious freedom.
We humbly ask the Holy See to join us. We ask the representatives of all nations present here today to join us. What could be more powerful than our voices all together calling for the freedom to worship God?
This comes on the heels of President Trump's recent UN push on religious freedom.
As president, protecting religious freedom is one of my highest priorities.
Last week, the commander-in-chief announced greater protection for U.S. religious sites and a new business coalition focused on workers.
This is the first time this has been done. This initiative will encourage the private sector to protect people of all faiths in the workplace.
Pompeo added that when governments hold absolute power, they demanded citizens worship government, not God. His visit to Rome is part of the 35th anniversary of diplomatic relations between the U.S. and the Vatican. Ben Kennedy, CBN News, Washington.
Thank you, Ben. The pre-trial hearing of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is officially underway. Following the four-day hearing, Israel's Attorney General will decide whether to indict Netanyahu on fraud and bribery charges. The Prime Minister denies any wrongdoing. Meanwhile, as his personal future hangs in the balance, the same is true for his political livelihood, with no seemingly viable path for Netanyahu to form a new government after the recent round of special elections. Coming up, why North Korea is being accused of provoking the United States ahead of upcoming nuclear talks.
Are you suffering from feeling tired or worn out during the day? Can you not turn off your brain at night? You are not alone. Hi, I'm Dr. Michael Bruce, the sleep doctor, and I've partnered with the Christian Broadcasting Network, and we're going to bring you some unbelievable information that you can use tonight to get a better night's rest.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free copy of Protect Your Sleep today.
If you want to be an attorney with a passion for serving people and for excellence, Regent University needs to be high on your list.
Regent's award-winning law school doesn't just create lawyers. We create leaders, judges, prosecutors and defense lawyers, civil litigators, and leaders in government.
My focus has been trying to really make sure we have the future leaders we need for the bench and the bar and for society generally.
You'll learn from highly credentialed leaders who are current and former judges, distinguished scholars, and ACLJ counsel.
I'm so glad I chose Regent. The relationships here have been amazing. The faculty have been amazing. Not everybody's called to the same thing when they leave law school, but they're called by a God who has a purpose for their lives, and He is going to use that education to make a difference in the world.
Regent will prepare you to be a purpose-driven, practice-ready lawyer. To start your rewarding law career, complete the online application, submit your transcripts, and take the law school admissions test by July. Apply today.
If you want to be an attorney with a passion for serving people and for excellence, Regent University needs to be high on your list.
Regent's award-winning law school doesn't just create lawyers. We create leaders, judges, prosecutors and defense lawyers, civil litigators, and leaders in government. Ready to become a purpose-driven, practice-ready lawyer? To start your rewarding career, complete the online application, submit your transcripts, and take the law school admissions test by July.
Welcome back. Nuclear talks between the United States and North Korea resumed Saturday. But even as the two sides agreed to go back to the negotiating table, North Korea launched another missile test.
It did. It appears the missile has the ability to reach the United States. CBN News national security correspondent Eric Phillips has the details. Eric?
John and Jenna, just as the two sides decided to sit back down, North Korea decided today to launch more ballistic missiles. And unlike North Korea's other short-range missile tests in recent months, U.S. officials are calling this a provocation. The missiles launched had longer range than other recent ones and appear to be designed to be launched from a submarine. Now, that could pose a threat to the United States, especially if a submarine gets within striking range without being detected. One of the missiles reportedly landed off the coast of Japan, and that country's prime minister calling the tests a violation of UN resolutions. Talks have stalled for months between the U.S. and North Korea. Pyongyang wants the U.S. to get rid of U.S.-led sanctions against North Korea. And the U.S. wants North Korea to get rid of its nuclear weapons. President Trump recently expressed some cautious optimism. But just 2 days ago, fired National Security Advisor John Bolton reiterated that he is not convinced.
There's been no nuclear testing at all for the last quite a long period of time, at least that we can detect. So we're not looking at any actions. We have a good relationship with Kim Jong-un. We'll see what happens.
Under current circumstances, he will never give up the nuclear weapons. voluntarily.
Bolton there referencing evidence that North Korea has continued to manufacture nuclear weapons despite saying it is not. This weekend's talks will be the first since Bolton left the White House. Pyongyang applauded the president for parting ways with Bolton, who was a supporter of military action against the regime.
And Eric, this is not the first time North Korea has played this card.
No, in fact, just about a month ago, North Korea conducted a weapons test shortly after expressing publicly that it was ready to continue talking about denuclearization. It seems to be part of Kim Jong-un's strategy. Agree to talking, but flex your muscles along the way. Almost like he's sending a message going into the talks that his demands need to be respected because he has the power and the tools to back them up. John and Jenna.
All right, thank you, Eric. Well, still ahead, paying it forward. What one church is doing to help the sick.
It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
Young people, millennials, are flocking to church.
It's not an exaggeration to say that we love to meet them and that we love to know their stories.
Come home to the Southern Gospel Station from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern gospel favorites. CBN Southern Gospel. Available now at cbnradio.com.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
Millsburg Falls man coming.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes, too. And so much more! Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon! It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
I am Region's first ROTC graduate student.
And finally tonight, a Texas church is reaching out to the surrounding community by paying it forward.
In a big way, by paying off medical debts for people in need. Lake Point Church is helping 2,400 families around the Dallas area. The church posted on Facebook saying it's completely paying off their medical debts, no strings attached. In total, the church is taking care of about $2.6 million in debt.
Wow, what a great gift.
Yeah, no kidding. Way to love on people.
That's right. That's going to do it for tonight's Faith Nation.
Have a great night.